Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Langrisser podcast, Strategic Scissors. I, Mr. Scissors, will be your guide. This podcast is aimed at players with a minor understanding of team building and how faction buffs work. If you're a new player, or you haven't really played Langrisser before, I highly recommend you try it. It is a fantastic game that'll kind of remind you of Fire Emblem, Shining Force, Advance Wars, if you're familiar with those titles. The current week is June 25th to July 2nd. And happy Canada Day to all my fellow Canadians out there. The new banners this week are the Hero of Destiny's banner, which include Ledin, Rachel, and Ultimuller. Ledin is one of the best PvE tanks, so if you are new, I highly recommend pulling on this and running him. He is a fantastic tank. And Rachel unlocks some of the bonds for the PvP All-Star Landius. And Ultimuller, if you have Leon, I recommend pulling him. I think it's a little late, really, to be desiring Ultimuller. However, Ultimuller and Leon really cheeses some content, actually. And if you're a new player, this is a very good banner to pull on, and I highly recommend it. And I also recommend checking out Kong's videos again. He has a Should You Summon series, which goes into much greater detail about these units, what they do, and how they all kind of impact your gameplay, and whether or not you may or may not need them. So, Maiya. Some of you guys are going to be like, wow, what an idiot. You are using Maiya at 4 stars, and you're playing her in a, you kind of want to do a ranked box. And you'd be right. That 60% win rate plummeted to a 36 win rate, and yeah, that's a bad day. Now, I'm not too worried. I mean, I made a lot of really bad plays. I picked Maiya every opportunity I could get her. It was half of it was my fault. The other half was Maiya maybe just not being strong enough. I do think Maiya will be a very strong counter pick. If you want to have a strong counter in your box, I would say you would run Maiya just to counter Bozel, so that if your enemies ever decide to pick Bozel, you can counter him. Because Maiya, I actually got into a game with a Bozel and just completely dunked the guy, stripping faction buff and just replacing with three debuffs. Meanwhile, my team is partially cleansed and replaced with buffs. So that was a fantastic time. However, I didn't really have the power to back it up. And I think that if I did an all-holy team, I would still suffer that problem. I just didn't think that it would be that bad. You can probably still do it, though. I think if you had a strong AoE box, and sadly, I would have to work on all my units to make them at least viable. And by viable, I mean like climbing into gold 3 to be any kind of consideration. Not that, I really go too hard in ranked, but, I think some of you listening might really want more of that competitive advice. So my competitive advice is all holy box Maiya comp. That's a no-no. This is an avoid at all cost. However, Maiya as a unit to counter Bozel or any upcoming demons that there might be, demon units, against a Listel even, I mean, if you want to leave open Bozel and Listel and you have like a fixed damage immunity, because she gets fixed damage immunity from her 1-cost ability, and maybe you have an Imelda with Gorgeous Red, and that'll help your entire team protect against, or Juggler, another one. But if you're running Juggler into Listel, you're in for a bad time, because she'll use that ability to cause all of your healing become damage dealing, and that is, if you see the enemy pick Listel, just do not pick Juggler. Even if it's the only tank choice you have, that is just a recipe for disaster. Take another DPS. But again, Maiya, really solid unit. I think very much worth building. The cooldown reduction is super nice. She puts out a lot of utility. I think she is going to suffer that Imelda problem where she doesn't really know if she's a DPS or a support unit, because her spells are kind of like convoluted in that they do a lot, but does that a lot really contribute to a fight? And that's the value, kind of the fight that you have to make yourself when you pick a unit like that. That can they make up for their shortcomings? Like, And you'll see the struggle a lot in other video games where a unit good at two different things is kind of not generally good at both. So when you try to use them, sometimes their double weakness is a bit more forward than their double strength. Like, that flexibility, while is beautiful, can sometimes be the bane, because if they were a bit more specialized in damage, you could maybe go towards your win con faster. If they healed a bit more, maybe they could have, helped your tank survive a bit longer. It's all depending on your team comp and just overall how kind of strong these units are. Getting into some new things that came out in this patch, we have new job battles. How did that go for you? Because let me tell you, one of the guys that I was running with did not like that we failed it the first 3 times. Could we have watched videos on YouTube? Yeah, but the other guy and I, we were kind of having an adventure, figuring it out together. That you had to, kill the units that corresponded with the enemies to bring down their resistance. Haven't had the opportunity to do the new job battle that just came out. Apparently, it's a toughie, and I don't have a claret. Which, if those of you that know this job battle, you can now begin to laugh at me, because apparently she makes the battle at least a bit more tolerable. Something else happening right now in the events are the Secret Realm Revival, the ability to get an extra chance at dragons, an extra chance at Goddess Trial, which is dragons, I'm silly goose, Aniki's Gym, the Bonding Realm, the Training School, and let me tell you, get enough potions, because if you're like me, you might not have enough, because you skipped it for like 100 days in a row, because you thought you had enough. You never have enough potions, seriously. Same with Aniki's Gym. If you can maximize that, use your little bread, your little biscuits to get that stamina refills, because training your units is such an underrated part of this game. I'm going to get into that a little later, but I just want to go over something first. Actually, I got very, very lucky with the Fire Dragon today, just as I was complaining that, I don't know the last time I've gotten a good item from the Fire Dragon in ever. And just today, it drops me a beautiful Scarlet Reaper. Fire Dragon, you have upgraded to Spicy Dragon, because the Scarlet Reaper is a very good weapon. It's used on Ares, and basically what it does is it checks to see if the opponent has less than 100% health. And if they are below that threshold, it'll deal increased damage, so your damage dealt is increased by 5%, plus it does fixed damage one time. And for a unit like Ares, that's very good, because you want to get in there. You want to do an AoE attack, and then your Scarlet Reaper will trigger. Okay, here's how it starts. So you have Ares go in, and he uses his Wind Whisper. Now, before it checks for damage, it's going to check your opponent's health. It'll see that they're below 100%, presumably you used an AoE. So it will now hit that target with the Scarlet Reaper proc into the Wind Whisper. If you're using his 3-cost ability that also does the suck everyone in and deal another AoE attack, the Scarlet Reaper will trigger again. This weapon was literally made for him. So recently, I haven't really gotten anything else from dragons, but there is one problem that I've been having, and I think all gamers, no matter what you play, tend to get this. And it's a little bit of like this burnout, like this drag where you're like, oh, I have to like do my dailies and my guild wars, and it's just a not so fun time. If this is how you're starting to feel, or like that requirement to play, try your best to mitigate the amount of time you play. Make sure you log in and you do like the crucial content. And I would call your crucial content the Gate of Fates, so your units will be startup, the Aniki Gym training, because those are crucial to your development of your troops. You should also do your Bonding Realm, and even if you don't have the highest cleared of all of these temples, just use your sweeps even at whatever level you're currently at, because some progression is better than no progression. And that's kind of what I've been doing over the past couple of days. And if you want to do guild wars, try your best to do your guild wars. As long as your guild's not really super competitive, they shouldn't really kick you. And if you can, try to do them. Even if it's just, you sit your phone down on auto and you just walk away and, make a little snack. Even if you don't clear the content, just make sure you're trying to progress an extra, 3 to 15%, however much you can give to your guild. Because the main thing we want is more people to keep playing. And if you're just getting burnt out, just, take a little break. Just do, seriously, the content you can do in, 5 minutes, 10 minutes is enough for you to just kind of hop in, do what you want, and then put it away. Because I don't know, I'm a man, I'm a bro guy. Don't push yourself. And I hope you kind of take that a little bit, because sometimes it's time consuming and it's repetitive. Some people love the structure, some people don't. Some of you are ultra competitive and will want to be like, haha, no, I'm going to maximize everything every day. Awesome. The fact you guys can do that is fantastic. But me, even I'm starting to get okay, time to do my dailies. And actually, the only reason I've been recently doing my dailies is so I can redeem the points in the events tab, where the more you do and the more dailies you do, the more points you can get, and eventually get a martial spirit, the red item you use to upgrade SSR equipment. I don't even need them. I just kind of did it because you also get gold for donating your points. And yeah, there are some other items that are kind of worth it, tickets, always valuable tickets. But yeah, so if you are starting to get a little burnt out, just make sure you have enough you time. So when you are playing, just play the bare minimum you want. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but I still say try to stick to the Inikis, the Goddess Trials, Bonding Realm, anything you can sweep, as high as you can sweep. It'll keep you in the game, and then when you return, you won't feel like you're as behind as you thought you might be. This has happened to me, I think, twice now, and I think this is really the second time where it's starting to hit me again. So if you are a newer player, you're probably struggling with a bit of content, and I'll get into some more information for older players in a little bit. But one of the two reasons you're going to be struggling is either because of your training, your troop training, or your bonds. Both of these are very easy to overlook when you're just starting out. And even as a returning player, maybe you've been off for a couple of months, both of these are such a major component to PvE and PvP. You really have to make sure that you're investing in them. But the one that I really want to focus on more is the training. Now, if you're stuck, and I think there's kind of two walls in Langrisser that are really obvious in the beginning. The first one being attaining your faction buff as soon as possible. When you can get that and you have the units to make part of one faction, a lot of the content becomes a little easier to manage because those stats are very, very vital to progressing through content. The other one being your troops. Now, there comes a part in the game where your troops are still considered the tier 2 troops, which are when you go to, we'll use the infantry training, for example, we have the maids. Now, the maids are good, but the masked maids are better because they all have a stat buff. So the HP of the maids I believe, are 28, whereas the masked maids are 36. It's just like an 8, 9, 5, 10, flat stat difference, but it makes a big difference because there are multiples of these soldiers per unit. So when you're fighting some of this harder content, you should really focus on getting the training up. Another thing too is that your resources as a player are so valuable that you want to make sure you research what unit you want to really invest in. There's a fantastic Discord document that has a Google Sheets that kind of outlines every character, every unit, their main builds, some SR equivalent builds, what troop to use. I highly recommend you check it out. There's a help and questions hashtag channel. Thank you. Thank you, me. And and you can really use that as a good resource to look. And because I believe it's actually one of the pinned documents, or even on the Reddit subreddit r/r Langrisser /r/r Langrisser. Yeah, that's the one. Well, but going back to the topic, masked maids, are good for certain different units, like Maiya and Elwin, for example, just to name a couple. But yes, when you're progressing, you want to make sure that your troops are high enough level. If you are in later game content or you're in PvP, this again is another big factor of what's kind of setting a big difference between you and an enemy player. So if you can out strategize your opponents, because trust me, I've made some really dumb moves, but there's still a point where troops matter, and you just want to make sure you're constantly building on them when you can. Now, there's actually a good little recipe you can use when determining like what stats to really level up. Now, if you're not really putting any money into it, you kind of want to focus on the attack. And by money, I mean like real life currency. Like you want to prioritize attack, because attack is actually one of the most common stats you can get. And the higher you have it, the better it is, obviously. But it's harder for enemies to stack defenses. So really, you want to focus on that attack and try to be not as aggressive, but as strategically aggressive as you can be. Just because it's easier to stack attack than it is to stack defenses. Now, there is a recipe to what best way to update your skills. And if you're listening in, not really watching the video, I'll explain it as like a year 1, year 2 thing, because what happened a little while ago was Langrisser originally released trainings as like a 3-tier system, or like 3 blocks, and some like the assassins have had 4, and now they have 5. But we'll call them like a year 1 and a year 2 block. So shout outs to Trisket for actually sending me this information when I got a little help from them on the Discord. The year 1s are the X out of 20, and the year 2 are the X out of 10. So mine currently are 15 out of 20 and 5 out of 10 for my infantry class. And so the proper way to best use your core stats, or your items, like your Niki drops, will be to get your core 1 stats to 14, and then your core 2 stats to level 6, and then going back to getting your core 1 stats to 20, and your year 2 stats to 10. This just maximizes your drops, and that you're kind of using them as efficiently as possible. It's not a be-all, end-all, and actually, if you're like me, you'll begin prioritizing a lot more units than you will actually your stats, and this will also kind of nip you right in the buns. But you play your own way, man. Like YOLO. I mean, I got my unicorns, I've got my cyclopses. It's just the way that I like to play. I like having personally having my units at level 10, like my Steel Wing Warriors, before maybe getting my flat stats. This is probably the wrong way to do it, but it's just the way that I like to do it. It's just the way that I play. And if you want a clearer help, I recommend the Discord again. I seriously can't recommend it enough. Yeah. Next week, I'll go into bonds a bit deeper. I just kind of want to go into some more units that you can really look out for in the future as a newer player, since I'm kind of hitting you guys up right now. Some core units to a beginner you might want to focus on are Ledin. He is one of the best PvE tanks in the game. He has the ability to strike the same target twice when attacking with more HP, depending on how many stars he has. Not even just as like PvE to clear content, he is fantastic in a lot of the challenge maps that come out in the future. And like, not even the event ones. I'm talking like when Zilong or Langrisser releases the really hard ones that come with the special release characters. Some of them are really hard, and he's very valuable. Another good one, especially if you're taking dragons really, really early. Where is he here? He's a green boy. Is Elwin. And actually, Legion of Glory has this PvE, perfect for PvE faction. And they really are. Elwin is fantastic. He heals every time he hits things. A bit stronger than him is arguably Yulia, who can do the same thing, but she's magical, meaning that your opponent probably doesn't have a magical tank, so she just busts a lot easier. Like she can really break down someone a bit faster. But Elwin, is now being used as like an anti-Landius, because if he disables the regeneration passive, he's so strong as a unit, he can just shred a Landius from 100 to 0, even through Royal Cavalry sometimes, which are a troop that reduces damage that they take, and being able to break through that is actually insane. Another unit that I believe is free if you can, and you're really, really just starting out, welcome, but Sherry. Fantastic unit. Get her when you can. In the beginning, she'll carry you in a lot of earlier to middle game content. Just a very valuable unit. And of course, any of the SSR healers, the Liana, Tiaras, Weiler, not so much in the beginning. He is not as strong as some of the others, because the big condition about him is that when he dies, he gives everyone a passive heal over 2 or 3 turns, depending on star level. And it's strong, but it's just, you don't want your healer to die in PvE content. It's a star condition, meaning that if you're trying to 3-star a map, that can really hinder you, because now A, you're playing healerless, and B, you've lost your 1 unit you're allowed to lose to still maintain a 3-star. So if you can grab Tiaras or Liana, those are both incredibly good SSR healers. Some other good ones, if you're not really lucky enough to pull Ledin or off the spanner, or you're just not worrying that much about getting him, Vargas is an absolute house. This guy carried me through all of my content. If you are running Emperor, if you are running Strategy, this guy is a must. I bring him in PvP. He is just an absolute monster. There's a lot of jokes actually made about him that he's missing the S in SR, because he should be an SSR unit. His only downside is that he has a weird troop selection, like the Stone Colossus or the Lava Titans, but he also kind of dies to magic damage because he has almost no magic defensive stats. Ooh, D, 177 flat, that's yikers. But some typical DPS that you wanted, and I already went over Sherry, but Leon, this game has been known as Langrisser. Actually, I went over this in my first episode, and he's a faction buffer, just an all-around good unit. Who else here? Another bonus for Tiaras, by the way, is that she can unlock a couple of bonds for a lot of different units, like Die Hard as well. So make sure you pick her up if you can. She's just a solid all-around unit. Something else too, is I'm scrolling through my character list, is that I have a surprising amount of characters just below level 60. People can choose to use Hein and Jessica. They're in my party because I use them as teleporters. They clear a lot of those events where you have to get to the treasure chest, and they can just teleport someone as far as they can, and then they can either travel the rest of the way or what have you. Narm. Underrated unit. I wish I used her more when I was going through PvE, because now she is one of the best units to use in Ancient Beckoning, which is a newer content where you kill a boss over and over until you eventually die. Sometimes it's a little long, but if you do, you get arena rewards, which help, or like arena stones, which can also pad your stats, which very, very necessary if you plan on playing Apex in the future. Narm, underrated unit. Please get her up when you can. Who else here is a really good unit? That's actually like a lot of core, like, essential units. If you can't get these, honestly, there's a ton of good substitutes. Emmerich is good. He is an SR unit that can just ignore guard because he feels like it. Lance, really weird, but he has just no immunity. I say no immunity, but he has advantage against flyers and cavalry, but it just feels like no immunity because a lot of units are actually cavalry or flyers. So whenever I run into content with him, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm just getting demolished here. If you're looking for some healers, Chris, fantastic. Can double as both a healer and a damage dealer in the beginning, or as you're progressing through content. And same thing a bit with, where is she here? Because Almeida. Seriously? It's kind of a surprise that a gacha game has such strong starter units, and you don't really see that in a lot of other games. I really like that. And now my starter units aren't like really, I don't really use them, or my story units like Matthew, Grenier, and Almeida. I don't really use them, but they are still incredibly powerful. Almeida, like, is just a debuff machine. All around pretty decent healer, not the best, but like they're all usable. Well, Grenier maybe not so much. Your day will come soon, my guy. You can use Laird as the Discount Leon, as he's known as. Honestly, one thing that I've really appreciated about Langrisser is that you can make it work, no matter what composition, provided you're not grabbing one unit from Glory, one unit from Empire, one unit from God Realm, whatever it's called, one unit from Dark. Like, as long as you're not really separating too much, you can really clear a lot of content with even some of the most basic units. So I just want to say shoutouts Langrisser, because that's something you miss in the gacha style game. And another thing that I've really appreciated about Langrisser is that they have the Destiny banners and how you're guaranteed to get an SSR you don't have yet. Oh my goodness, the games that I have played that don't have this feature, it's killer when you're just trying to get that one unit. I don't know. So thank you Langrisser. You guys are fantastic, and I can't recommend you guys enough. But yeah, that's about it for today. I hope you guys really enjoy this, and it kind of cools you off if you're kind of struggling right now, or if you're kind of wondering what to do next. Just kind of chill, relax. If you want to, leave a comment in the YouTube, or you can find me actually in the Langrisser Discord as Mr.Scissors. So please, shoot me a message. I'm always down to talk, or if you need help, I'll try my best. I'm not the best, but I still, I'm pretty good at vomiting the research that has been done. So if you just need a quick tip, I'm always down to just kind of give you a little hand. So thank you guys very much. Have a good week. And happy Canada Day.